Hi, this is James Gordon Torlight here with the second book review in the Dark Tower series. Today's book I'll reviewing today, Drawing of the Three. This is from Stegmet, and this was originally published in 1987. This edition is from January 1990. This was just absolutely a terrible sequel. I hated this book. I did not enjoy it at all. From the absolutely awful beginning of this book to the rest of it, I did not enjoy this book at all, and I, for the most part, was bored with it. I didn't like any of the characters, and this whole time I'm reading this story, I'm just bored with the whole plot of it. I thought, after 5 years of writing the first book, this is the best you can come up with, King. Seriously, this? I was really getting bored with this book. I struggled to read through it, and oh, I absolutely hate this book. There's nothing I liked about it. Absolutely nothing I like about this book. It's terrible. The characters are boring and not really creative. And oh my goodness, King just basically dropped the ball. What he could have done to improve on his fantasy series by improving on it. And this, I was just so bored with it. And well, I was like, I was like three. I reached like the 300 page mark, and I said, "Fuck it, I'm done with this. This thing is terrible." It's just, I couldn't believe how bored I was with this book. Just the whole beginning part is just a chore to get through, and then what the character has to do to order to complete his quest. I'm like, this is just an awful sequel. Just nothing good about it. Absolutely nothing good about it. This series is off to a really rough start, and I am hoping that the other books in the series get better because I'm not enjoying this at all. This has just been a very awful way to just an awful sequel. Uh, oh man, yeah, I was like at the 300 mid 300 page mark. I said, screw it, I'm done with this. I'm done with this is just taking too long to get through, and I want to get through this series, get it done, because the next set of books are just thick, and if they're I'm not I am hoping that the later books get better, because if the later books are just bad as this, oh boy, it's going to be one hell of a chore to get through all of them. Alright, on to the book review, and spoiler alert, as I will be giving away crucial details within the story. Plot: Roland the Gunslinger awakens from a dream as he's lying on a beach. Roland is then attacked by a lobster-like monster that tears his clothes and chops off his one toe and two fingers on his right hand. He is able to wound the monster and stomp on its head, killing it. He then tries his wounds the best he can and begins walking down the beach feeling sick, believing the lobster has infected him. He must find medicine. Feeling worse and about to pass out when he suddenly notices a door in front of him with the word "The Prisoner" written on it. Upon opening the door, he is shocked to see a different world beyond his and believes this is where Jake came from. He remembers what the man in black told him while reading tarot cards, as he must find a person who has a demon named Heroin. Rowan opens the door and steps inside. Following the world of junkie Eddie Dean, who's staying in a fancy penthouse waiting for a shipment of drugs to come in so he can deliver them to Kingpin Mr. Balazar. While dealing with a bad hangover, Eddie notices his eyes are different when he looks in the mirror and hears a man's voice inside his mind and isn't sure what or who it is. Roland realizes he's inside the prisoner's mind and can communicate with him and even gain food for making Eddie eat, but has to treat his wounds soon and learn how this man will aid him in the quest to find the Dark Tower. Eddie, along with two female friends, are on a flight while sneaking drugs. However, one of the flight attendants notices Eddie carrying drugs and alerts the pilots, who contact the DEA agents ready to arrest him once they touch down at the airport. Roland contacts Eddie and gets him to get into the lavatory and uses the mirror for Eddie to enter into Roland's world. Eddie isn't sure what to make of it, but Roland forces Eddie to get rid of all the drugs he's carrying and makes a deal with Eddie to help him deliver his drugs in return for aiding Roland in his quest. Just as the plane touches down, both Customs and DEA agents bust down the lavatory door, only to find Eddie is about to use the bathroom. They take him out along with his stuff and interrogate him for hours, but have no proof he was carrying drugs. Roland at one point takes control of Eddie and tells off the agents, forcing them to let him go and leave the airport. However, they still believe he has the drugs and follow him closely. Eddie meets with one of Mr. Balazar's men who want to know where he's hiding his stash. Eddie explains he'll bring the drugs to his boss, stating it's safe. However, Mr. Balazar believes that Eddie is working for the DEA and sends his men to capture his brother Henry as they torture him for information. Eddie goes to visit Mr. Balazar, stating he's ready to hand over his drugs, but is questioned how he hid them on the plane. He refuses to answer, and Mr. Balazar orders him to strip, revealing he doesn't have them. Mr. Balazar orders Annalena to take him into the bathroom and demand where the drugs are. Roland opens the portal with the mirror, allowing him to enter into Eddie's world as Annalena is eaten by a large lobster monster. Taking Annalene's Colt Cobra, the two sneak towards Mr. Balazar's office and overhear Henry died of a drug overdose while trying to get the information out of him. In a fit of rage, Eddie and Roland engage in a shootout, killing everyone along Mr. Balazar. With SWAT outside pounding on the door, Eddie agrees to join Roland in his quest to find the Dark Tower. Roland takes some medicine to help him with his wounds. After getting dressed in his clothes, Eddie and Roland leave just as SWAT breaks down the door, disappearing. After spending days on the beach resting, killing and eating lobster monsters, talking nonsense, both Roland and Eddie travel down the beach for miles till they find another door with the words, "The Lady of Shadows." Eddie takes one of Roland's revolvers and orders Eddie to stay here as Roland enters through the door. Roland sees the world through the eyes of Odetta Holmes, a black civil rights activist who lost her legs when she was pushed towards a subway, nearly being killed by a serial killer. She is unaware that she also has an alter ego of herself, Detta Walker, a violent and mean woman after suffering head trauma. Together they must help Odetta along with finding answers of who the serial killer is and to prevent it from happening, and Roland learns the true killer of Jake, which he tries to alter the course to ensure he doesn't die again. However, things become complicated when Detta enters through the door and holds Eddie hostage and threatens to kill him unless Roland finds a way to prevent Odetta's alter ego from existing and ensure he'll complete his quest to reach the Dark Tower. The Drawing of the Three is a terrible sequel. Did not like the plot of this novel at all. From watching Roland easily lose his fingers to a lobster monster, causing him not to be skilled with his guns, which isn't a good way to start off your novel, then having to help out a junkie hide his stash of drugs, bringing a disabled woman who has split personality and trying to undo events, along with walking miles down a beach to find a door to take him to each altered reality just to unlock the next quest to the Dark Tower was the most boring thing I've ever read. Having to read page after page of following the different characters doing hardly anything, then Roland trying to figure out what role they play along with the drama before finally doing something. The whole time I read this novel, I wasn't enjoying a single moment of it. At one hand, it's trying to be a fantasy story, then it wants to be a horror story, then it goes to a crime thriller. King doesn't blend the different genres well in this novel. At one point, King tries adding some action with Roland and Eddie getting into a shootout. Only problem is, Roland's bullets don't work from time to time, causing many misfires. Again, why are you making your character more useless if he can't even shoot? Might as well just use his bare fists if his guns don't work. While the detail is better than the Gunslinger, as I can understand where the story is going and taking place, however, King fails to improve his Gunslinger character Roland, along with giving us, the reader, a backstory of why he's searching for the Dark Tower and the Man in Black. And none of the other characters I didn't care for. All these characters do is complain, argue with each other, do nothing else, talk a bunch of nonsense, or just wander from place to place, and a few times fight more lobster monsters. Was this seriously the best idea King could come with after 5 years of writing The Gunslinger? This hardly feels like a fantasy story or whatever King was trying to accomplish with this novel. He misses the mark with not coming out with a better plot, improving the characters, and making this feel more like a fantasy story. Overall, I don't recommend The Drawing of Three. It's a terrible sequel and a terrible story. Not worth reading if you ask me. And that's it for the review today. This has just been a really disappointing book. Like, I couldn't believe what I was reading. I thought, King, are you fucking kidding me? This is the best idea you can come up with for your sequel? The plot is just boring. The character, it continues after the events of the first book, and the character wakes up from a dream and immediately is attacked by a monster, and he's like struggles to just get up and run. He just tries crawling away for some reason. Like, he's just kind of dumbfounded by this lobster monster that comes at him, and it easily cuts off like 2 of his fingers and his toe before he finally kills it. I'm like, wow, what a great way to start off your story, King. Like, you have your character losing 2 of his fingers and a toe, and he nearly dies from this thing. Like, really? That's the best way you want to start off the story? And then having to wander miles down a beach till he finds a door to enter this alternate reality, and he has to figure out, like, the Man in Black says, okay, you gotta find a person who has a demon named Heroin. So I'm thinking, okay, so he's gonna have to step through a door and then go into the world and then find the person and then help them in some way. Nope, instead he just steps into the mind of the person he has to help, and then later on he can enter the world through a mirror. I was like, what? Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, and then the character he has to help out is this junkie character, and has to help him hide his stash of drugs so he can deliver it to the kingpin to get paid, and of course it doesn't work out that way. And I'm like, really? This is the way you want to start your story? And oh my goodness, just reading page after page of this junkie character, like talking about his like obsession with getting high and wasted. I was not enjoying it, and all this like art, like drama that he has with other characters. I was just really bored, just turning page after page after page after page just to get it moving. And then we finally get some action. It's not really anything good. And then after Eddie is now in the world of Roland again, it's the same thing. They just travel miles down a beach, killing these lobster creatures because that's the only food source they can find, until they reach another door. And it's the same bullshit all over again. This time now, Roland's got to help out a activist that lost her legs and figure out who tried to kill her, and then has to try to prevent her from this event from happening, so that way her ultra ego doesn't exist. I'm like, this is getting boring. And I feel like King is like adding commentary on like drug addiction, and then he's doing commentary on, racism and civil rights. I'm like, I don't want to read this. I want to read a story, not all this subplot. That's not what I'm here for. I want to read a goddamn fantasy story, not this subplot about drug addiction and racism. I don't want that. Oh. And it was absolutely annoying to read the dialogue of this civil rights activist character when she goes into her personality. The book literally describes her talking like a cartoon character, and it's annoying. It's just really annoying. And then even when she's in her normal self, she like this Oda Holmes character just says some of the weirdest shit I've ever read. It's like, is this like King trying to be funny? It's not funny. It's just annoying having to read her dialogue. Oh, then once they get her into their world, they gotta push her down a beach for miles till they find another fucking door. Like, come on, King. Is this seriously the best you can come up with? Why not have the gunslinger wakes up, he travels down the beach, finds like some, I don't know, building of some kind, and he finds a key, and there's a door he has to enter in, and he has to find the character who has the demon named Heroin. And when he enters for the world, it's somewhat like the reality of the different worlds he goes into, but there's something off with it. There's something off, so it's not so the reality is off. That would have been so much better. And once he gets that character, there's another key, and then he has to go for the door. That would have been so much better than having to read characters walking miles and miles down a beach. Oh, I was not enjoying this, and then after I got to the part where the character holds like Eddie at hostage for one of the doors, and Roland has to try to save him. I said, "Fuck it, I'm done with this book." I was just done with it. I'm tired of this drama bullshit and all this other nonsense I don't like. Oh my! And one of the reviews of this book from Booklist calls this book complex and fascinating. That's bullshit. This is not complex and fascinating. It's fucking boring, is what it is. Oh. Did not enjoy this book at all. I hated everything about it, and so many missed opportunities that King could have went for. Making and coming out with a better plot to improve from his first book, fleshing out the characters better to make them more interesting and likable, and making this book, feel like more like a fantasy book. It doesn't feel like that at all. It's just this weird, bizarre story that makes. It's not complicated, but it's just boring. It's a strange and boring world. That's all it is. Oh man, I was just really bored. I really am hoping these art books get better because oh my goodness, this series it's just been off to an absolute shitty start with just two duds. Oh man, I really hated this book. There's just nothing I liked about it, and like what do people see in this book? Like what did they see in it? I've been told that the third and fourth book are apparently the best ones. Well, I'll be the judge of that when I go to read them. But I am hoping this series gets better because this has just been terrible. Ugh. And I've seriously read better fantasy books than this. All right, that is it for the review today. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, I don't really have much else to say about this book. It's just fucking terrible. So for my next book in the series, The Wastelands, I am really hoping it gets better because it has been good. This one is thick. However, the one after that, Wizard and Glass, is like the thickest book in the series. Well, this is probably the second thickest one. Call of what's the fifth one I got here? Oh, Wolves of Call. That's like probably the second thickest one because they're both 700 pages. The longest one is the final one, the Dark Tower. I don't know if I'm gonna even bother going that far, but yeah. So I got quite a lot to read in this series. Alright, that's for the review today. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you like this video, please like it, share it, and please don't forget to subscribe to October Library, the YouTube channel, and the Facebook group with the same name. Please support your review of fiction. Until then, I'll catch you later.